Good morning, everybody. What do you want to talk about today? We're going to talk about how to make a few extra bucks. Like I said, always keep photos of the things that you make on your cell phone so you can show people. It's what I do. I'm not aggressively trying to advertise or anything, but I take it to work. I show them around. Pretty soon somebody will pop up and they'll see something that I've done and they'll go, hey, can you make another one of these? Sure. So I had somebody at work say, hey, I need a wood rack for my house. And I said, well, how big do you want it? Well, I don't know. Well, how long do you want it? Well, I don't know. So I said, okay, do me a favor, give me a few minutes or, a little bit, and I'll put together some pictures. You take a look at them, and then we'll go from there on, what you want. Then I'll give you a price, and you can tell me, whether or not you want to make it. So like always, no long intros. I'm going to throw up some pictures of some wood racks, discuss how to make them and the things that you should be aware of, and I'll tell you what we did when we made this particular wood rack. So the first one I showed her was this. Now this is made out of simple tube steel, and you can buy this at any local supply steel, wholesaler, retailer, what have you. And you can buy it up to like 20-foot lengths. They charge you per cut like a couple of bucks. So obviously I have a truck, so I have them cut them usually at 10-foot lengths, and you end up having to pay the charge, and that's the way that it is. But once I get it home, I have a chop saw, and this is just a matter of figuring out your height, width, and length, or what the customer wants. And I'll go over that in a minute. But this was one design idea I showed her. It's simple. I don't do super elaborate, designs because it takes way too much labor and time, and the cost gets driven up, and then people don't want them. So this looks like this great big, project, but it really doesn't take that much time. Once you know your dimensions, this is a pretty easy layout, and with a square, a level, an angle grinder with a cutoff blade, and, so chop saw and some basic tools, you can actually make these, and you can make them look really good. Let me throw up another picture and show you what else I showed her. Okay, let's take a look at the one over here on the left. Now, this is a very simple one to make too. And you can use the wood base if you want to, or you can make, just those square tube like ribs going across it. You could do it either way. Now, having the wood bottom, of course, makes it a lot easier. You can just bolt these down, and it does create a good enough base for stacking firewood. Again, you have to think about the dimensions that you're going to want and the steel that you want to buy. Now, take a look at one over on the right. Now this one, and I'll show you pictures at the end here of one that I made where I did put hooks on it. I put hooks on both sides. Now you can also create, a piece of tube steel. On this one on the right, you can take a piece of tube steel and you can put it across the top like you did the bottom, and you can create like a top ledge or a top shelf, and you could put plywood on it. I've done that too. But the hooks are a nice idea because people have things they might want to hang from it. You can use 1/4-inch cold rolled steel. You can bend these hooks without any heat or anything. They're very easy to put on. You can weld them on. And the one over here on the left, now let's go back. Now the one thing that I encourage both people, I've made 2 of these for other people, and I made them out of steel. And so what I do encourage them anyway is to use casters. Now where do I get my casters? I get them out at Harbor Freight, but I don't buy the cheap ones. I buy good casters. I think they have the polyurethane, and it's nice because the people can grab these even when it's full of firewood and manipulate them around with just a couple of hands. They can push it over against the wall. They can pull it out clean, push it back. They can move it all around. So I always encourage people, just for the additional cost, go ahead and put the wheels on there. I don't really charge but a few dollars more, but they do pay for the wheels. They're added onto the price. I just pick them up and I go ahead and I tack weld them onto the bottom. Well, a little bit better than tack weld, but I weld them onto the bottom. Okay, let me throw up a few more. We'll continue the discussion. Okay, so let's take a look at the one over here on the left, and we can take a look and see that they made this one tall. There's really not much support, going across the back, the sides or anything, but you can add that. You can add tube steel, to the corners on the top, 2 more long ones, like I said, and always put a shelf on there, and it also creates stability and strength. You can also put them in the middle, more of that tube steel, just, pieces going across and a piece across the back. That would increase the strength too. I would not just use this and stack wood up against it. You're bound to get bends at some point. The steel costs next to nothing when you get to this point in the build. Go ahead and add them and increase the strength. Now, the other thing I would have done on this, I would have added wheels to it, like I said, previously. Unless the customer absolutely doesn't want them, I think that they're a great addition and they should be on all of them because it makes for easy mobility. Let's take a look at the one in the middle. Okay, the one in the middle is a little bit more fancy because the guy's using it inside. You can do this and, paint it gloss black, and it's a nice little addition. Now, he put these bends in the thing down below for logs. It really doesn't hold a whole lot, but you can make indoor log holders too. There's plenty of pictures and videos out on the web. But I'm talking about making large ones for outside where somebody orders a cord of wood or thereabouts or a truckload, and they bring it and they stack it up against the wall. And then it's kind of like they have to, unstack it, move it around, and it's kind of a big pain. If you put something like this up on wheels, a wood rack, they can move it around close to their house, unload enough wood inside real quickly, for a few nights, and go slide it back over against the wall. Take a look at the one on the upper right. This is another one where the guy puts supports in it. There's no top shelf or anything on it, but that's okay. This is all simple design work, but he did use the cross members to increase the strength. Okay, questions and answers. Okay, I understand your question, but the two that I made, you can use oxyacetylene or whatever you have. I have a MIG welder. So I MIG'd them, I cleaned up all of the joints and stuff with flap wheels, and I painted it gloss black. It's kind of a generic thing unless somebody really wants some other color or something. I paint them all gloss black. The base here, like you see the base is open on a couple of these. You can either use like 3/4 inch plywood or something and set it there for your base to start stacking the wood on. You can use metal. You can put cross members there. You can put expanded metal or anything you want to create the base. And then the wood stacks like, right to left, left to right, whatever. And then you come right on up like it is in the upper, right-hand picture and just keep stacking it up. So, I hope that answers your question. Do you have to use tube steel? No, you could use angle iron. You can go to the Thrift Mart, Angel View, any of these places, get old bed frame rails, cut it up. You can use angle iron. You don't have to use this tube steel. A lot of these, people went out and bought the tube steel and made them, but no, you don't have to. Make it out of anything that you want. Use plywood base, like I said, use a pine base. You can get 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x12s, whatever. And you can make the base out of wood, steel. You can make them out of angle iron. You could do all kinds of, you can actually make this whole wood rack out of wood using 2x4s or 2x6s. I prefer making the ones that I've made, the two, I made them out of steel. They will last forever for people. Next question. No, there's no special tools really required. I mean, you need a welder. You need your, you need your face shield, you need your respirator, you need that stuff. I would tell you, use a nice square, like a framing square. Use a level, even a little torpedo level would work, or use a decent level. You can use a 4.5 inch angle grinder with cut-off blades and get yourself some flap discs. Harbor Freight sells them. You'll burn through them fast. They're not the best quality, but Home Depot, Lowe's have them too, a little bit better quality. And, they'll clean up your welds. And you can use acetone to wipe it down. You can use gloss black to paint it or whatever color you want. Those are the basic materials. It's not that costly, and it's one hell of a handy thing to have. I made one years back. I've been using it ever since for firewood, and then people saw it and said, oh, hey, can you make me one? And I said, sure. So again, this is one of these things where you can make a few extra bucks. The more things you add to your telephone and things that you do, and you start showing friends and people all of a sudden go, hey, I'd love to have one of those. But make it stout, make it good and strong, do it the right way, take your time. Okay, your question is referring to the picture in the middle, the hooks. Those are probably 1/4 inch cold rolled steel. He just put it in a vise and bent these. Or he bent them around something round. It could have been an anvil or who knows. Now, there's another way to do this. I use horseshoes. I get lots of horseshoes. Because of where my daughter goes, the farrier pretty much gives them to me in exchange. I make him little projects, or I make him things, or I weld things for him. So I get them for free. So you can use horseshoes, and you can weld them on there. Gives a little decorative touch. Remember, it's mainly for outside. and it creates hooks on there, and you can hang stuff from them. A lot of times I'll ask people, well, where do you want the hooks? Most of the time they're going to want them up high, but it's nice. They can hang things from them, whether it's shovels, rakes, or brooms, or whatever, or just whatever they want to hang from them. No, I'll try to remember to put up a picture of the one that I made, but whether it's the one on the far right or the far left, what I did is I put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood across the very top of it, because it created a top shelf where I could put like small pieces of wood or other scrap wood up on top, or I could use it for whatever storage I wanted. You know, it's kind of like free real estate area, you know, or something like that, where why just leave it open? I mean, why not utilize it? So I made it into like a shelf across the top. Okay, we're going to kind of conclude this video. What you need to think about, like I said, just get the tools, get everything that you need, go out, get the steel, bring it home. You can lay it out on the ground. I mean, now that's another method I've used, where before I start welding like the back and the front, and then I can put the sides together. If you're by yourself like I am, a lot of times I'll lay it out on the ground. I'll use my magnets, those big square red ones that you can get out at Harbor Freight. They'll hold the corners and the angles together. Then you can use, you know, your levels. You can use everything else as you build this. Just take your time. You can do it. It's not that hard. Now, you're going to make some errors along the way, but remember, tack weld. That way your errors will be small errors. They won't be big errors, okay? And you can pop them apart if you have to. You can tap on them with a hammer to square them up if you've spot welded them. So don't go crazy and weld the heck out of them in the beginning. Okay, that's your tip for the day. I'm the Home Handyman. Please click subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.